Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a question for you, which is a question that my dad has asked a really long time. I guess his is more of a statement, whereas mine is a bit more of a question, and I wanted to share with you the context around it. Now, for those of you who are wondering why this Singaporean looking guy sounds like he's from the UK, it's because I was born here, I grew up over there in the UK, and I've been back for the last 5.5 years, and I love this channel because I get to interact with you about what local life is like. All the things that I missed out on, all the things I don't understand, all the things I have questions for, I ask it in this forum and everybody gets involved in the comment section below. So please do that. I would appreciate it very much. Now, the other day, we as a family ended up at a hawker centre with a bit of a time constraint. Now, not really important for you, but we were cycling, we didn't have our lights with us, and we wanted to make sure that we went home quickly enough before we needed lights so that we could still ride safely. But we were at a hawker centre and we'd all got different food from the different places, and Millie's hadn't arrived. Long story short, Millie's food still hadn't arrived when we had finished our meals, and then she went back to talk to them about how long it was going to be, and she found out that they did not speak English. Fortunately, she's been having Mandarin lessons for a couple of years. I don't know if you've seen whether she's put any content in our main channel, Wanderlust, but she is already talking to our local market people in Mandarin and interacting with them that way. So she is has the confidence to have some of these conversations. So she told them, we're in a rush and we need to get going. Is there any chance you could hurry up our order? Now, the lady who she was talking to understood her, took our ticket or took Millie's ticket and went and had a chat with the kitchen and asked them to push it through a little bit quicker. So we had the hope that it was going to come kind of soon, right? And so we waited a little bit longer. And then we waited a little bit longer. And then we waited a little bit longer more, and we realized that there were people around us as well who were beginning to get a little bit frustrated, who were looking at their watches, who were making phone calls to their families to let them know they're going to be late because the food was just taking so long to come out of the kitchen. Now, the kids had finished eating, they'd gone down to the bikes because they just love cycling, so they were just cycling around the area, not going too far while we waited for Millie's meal to arrive. And while we were there, a lady walked past me and I said, oh, excuse me, we're waiting for a dish. And I showed her the number on our order, and she looked at me and she did this and then she walked away. So I thought, okay, she's responded to me, she's processed what I was going to say, and she was going to go and sort something out. And then I watched her for a little while and I realised that there was no obvious movement towards our ticket. So she hadn't taken our ticket, she didn't seem to have had a conversation with anybody. It was like she just acknowledged me and then she disappeared. So after waiting a few more minutes, now bear in mind this is probably at the 45-minute mark. Yes, I know that does sound like long, it felt long. I had gone to see her again and I said, excuse me, we need to go. We were actually going to say, look, don't worry, you're under a lot of pressure, let's cancel our order, you guys keep the money, we'll buy something on the way home, because I felt a little bit bad about the language barrier and that we hadn't been able to communicate our rush or anything like that to them, but it was okay. When I went and spoke to her and I said, excuse me, and I held up my ticket again, she put her hand out and said, no English, no English. And that was it. At which point I realised she hadn't understood me the first time around and she'd just gone and actually, it feels horrible because I feel like I'm complaining about it, which I guess I am a little bit, but that's not the purpose of this, isn't a complaint. I actually want to talk about a cultural aspect, not this particular person. So please disregard what I'm saying. Don't need to comment about the person. I'm okay with it. But she had acknowledged that I had something to ask, but then it ignored everything that I had to say through a lack of understanding. I would have hoped that if she didn't understand me, she would have gone and spoken to someone who does speak English and brought them over, or just told me from the start that she didn't have a clue what I was saying, instead of keeping me waiting a further 8 minutes or more while we were trying to figure out where the food was coming from. Eventually, Millie had spoken again in Chinese and explained that we needed to leave, that we were in a rush, and that they didn't need to do it. And then at that point, they kind of took Millie's ticket and showed us that they were going to put it through as quickly as possible. So we waited a total of about 55 minutes for our meal, for Millie's meal, which for a quick in and out is a really, really long time to wait. I think probably for most meals, it's a really, really long time to wait. But that whole situation got me thinking, which is that Singapore, and by my understanding, I know I've definitely watched videos and read articles of Lee Kuan Yew, our founding Prime Minister. I've definitely had conversations with my dad about this, but our founding Prime Minister talked about how we could honour our cultures in the different pockets of culture around our country. The Indians who speak Tamil, our Malay friends who speak Malay, and then the Chinese, they could all have their own special things happening in their neighbourhoods, in their context. But then when we come together as Singaporeans, we speak English. And that makes so much sense for the beautiful unity that we have here in Singapore and that we're constantly working towards. However, this was a very foreign exchange for me. Now, I know if I grew up here, I would have learnt Mandarin in class at school, and I would have been able to do that. I know that there has definitely been a bit of a shift in that direction, but for my dad, he's of a generation that didn't learn Mandarin in school. He understands a little bit of Malay, a bit of Hokkien. My mum's Teochew, and so they're dialect speaking people. And coming here, sometimes my dad would have an interaction similar to the one that I've just shared with you, and he'll just be really upset. He'll be frustrated, maybe a little bit angry sometimes, because he feels that this is not the Singapore that he grew up with, and he feels foreign in his own land. And I think that is a really interesting thing for me, and I wonder what happened to that Singapore that Lee Kuan Yew talked about. I know that we seem to be leaning towards China a little bit more. We're definitely seeing a lot more Chinese people in Singapore, and what is with that? Can you help me understand? I have read a few things online, but I don't know how it sits. What I can't find is I don't know how it sits within our culture of Singaporeans, where we have our different subcultures, yet together we speak English. I can see how that works beautifully, and I can see how it works beautifully in most aspects. And for example, there are many either whether they're like shop owners or road workers who speak Tamil. I don't really speak Tamil. I don't speak Tamil. I don't know what I was going to say that, but I know how to say hello in Tamil. I know how to say thank you in Tamil, and I am beginning to be able to recognise what it sounds like. And so when I take the opportunity to say thank you in Tamil, Nandri, I see a face light up, a face that speaks English light up, because I've made the effort just to say thank you in their home language, and the rest of our conversation will be in English. But there's just a moment of beautiful connection there. To me, that shows me how important it is to be able to speak English as a community, to be able to communicate with each other successfully. And I wonder, what do you think? Is it important for everybody to speak English? What happened to that? Are there not any expectations, regulations, guidelines on speaking English when people move here and live here and work here? What's the idea when it comes to serving people with food and not being able to speak English? Yes, I think it was a neighbourhood hawker centre, so maybe that's different to the hawker centres, maybe Lau Pa Sat or Newton, or the ones that are a bit more touristy. But surely there are going to be people in the local areas. I know that HDBs have different quotas of different races who live within our communities, and so surely even in the local areas there needs to be an element of that blended society. That to me makes sense in the Singapore that I know and love, and I wonder whether you could shed some light on that too. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope that thought has been an interesting one for you and one that you can get involved in. I'm looking forward to reading all the comments below, learning more about the country, learning more about your opinions and your ideas, and finding out more about this beautiful country that I get to call home, that I'm very proud of being from, and having my Singaporean blood. So yeah, that's it. Please subscribe, like, and maybe share the video if you get the opportunity, if you see it being appropriate, or any of the previous videos that I've had as well. I look forward to seeing you next time for another engaging topic on this beautiful country. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.